a teaser.
This is the Sport Fishing Championship.
And we kick off this first day of 3 of the Sport Fishing Championship, stop number 7 of 11, the South Jersey Yacht Sales Offshore Showdown. It's going to be a great one. The southern tip of New Jersey plays host Cape May. Beautiful scenery on land, beautiful scenery out in the water as well. A lot of Victorian houses. Unfortunately, they came about from burning down several years ago. They built them all back up, and nice, pretty, and beautiful. Robbie Floyd with Ronnie Moore. And look at Cape May down at the southern tip of New Jersey. It is the Garden State, but we're talking about the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, this week. Hey, he's Ronnie, I'm Robbie, and welcome to the Sport Fishing Championship. Ronnie, things are a little bit different this week. We're back on the Atlantic coast, but up the Atlantic coast, and a 3-day event, but a 2-day tournament.
Yeah, I really feel like this is the second start of our Atlantic division, Robbie. We have had already the Dominican Republic event, which was a dual event, and then we had the St. Augustine event. But this is the Northeast Swing. We're going to have 3 weeks in a row, and we're going to see a lot of teams rise up this leaderboard in the Atlantic division and the overall race from what we see this week, and it's a great place to start. Cape May, what a historic location to have a tournament. Like you said, 3-day event, but we'll get into that, a 2-day fishing tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are at the very southern tip of the Garden State, marshlands down here. It's a beautiful area, a vacation spot, a lot of things to do, to see. I didn't realize that certain streets or strips had restrictions on bringing in like typical retail stores. They want the mom and pop places. I like the typical, border, what do they call it, brick and mortar stops. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a small town vibe in a big city area, the New York, New Jersey area, and so Cape May, keeping it classy, keeping it old school.
Yeah, I like it, keeping it classy. Hey, we've got something new, the Garmin Team Spotter. We're going to find out where these teams are at in the general area. And one thing about this tournament that is different as well is they have a 100-mile radius that they cannot fish outside. But you see everybody loading up on that big drop-off.
One big thing we're going to see this week that's different with all these teams, they will be back each evening. They head out, they come back that same day, then they'll head out again and come back that evening and make it all official, compared to the Gulf, where when they leave, they don't come back until the final check-in time on that Saturday of the event. And we're going to see a lot of these teams that headed out this morning fish a lot more natural cover. We saw a lot of oil rigs, drill ships, fads, different things in the Gulf. We're going to see a lot more ledges and reefs.
I like the salt and pepper approach to the bait that are out there. You got a salt and bait, and this was early this morning. This was at 3:30 this morning. Different preparation. I mean, they're up before dark, but the reason being is they could actually launch at 4:30 once they leave this inlet, and then get out there and get ready to fish at 8 o'clock. So a lot of stuff was being done really, really early this morning.
More so, these teams had a lines in time, which is 8 o'clock. We're in the Gulf divisions. We've been dealing with only a lines out time, which is you need to be back by a certain check-in time. These teams weren't allowed to get started until a certain time, but we're going to see some the running in the dark. That's a little bit different. We've been having that 10:30 to noon takeoff time for a lot of these events we've covered this year.
It'll be light shortly after that 4:30. They're on the farthest side of the East Coast, but again, the boats left this morning at 4:30. They had the inlet buoy there, and they'll start fishing. They've been fishing here for a couple of hours. But looking at the Sport Fishing Championship, it's all about the points and trying to win that $1 million prize at the end of the rainbow. But then again, Ronnie, we got to talk about the $100,000 Atlantic prize as well. You win the Atlantic, but right now, overall, it's quantified. 2 victories, an amazing start by them.
Yeah, quantified, and the rest of our top 10 are represented from the Gulf division. We've had 4 of those Gulf events, only 2 pseudo-Atlantic events. We're going to have 3 more. We're going to see this list change quite dramatically before we make our last stop in the Gulf. But when you have team quantified, like you mentioned, they've won 2 of the 4 Gulf events. They went in our most recent one in Destin and took the title there. Robbie, they basically doubled their catch points for the year in this event in Destin.
Absolutely, and the last victory, I mean, their first victory, they got 4,500 total points for that event. The next one, they got 5,400. They almost got 1,000 extra from that second win. That was huge. Those catch points keep adding up from all of our stops. If you fish all 10, you're going to get catch points from all 10.
Yeah, the catch points is a purely addition when it comes to the mathematics there, Rob. Only going to add fish catches and releases to your catch points total, but your finishing points, that's where you're maxed out. 10,500 is the maximum, and that is if somebody wins 3 events. They're almost maxed out, Robbie, going into the final 2 events that they're probably going to participate in, which is going to be Texas for South Padre Island, and then possibly Puerto Rico. We heard rumblings and rumors that they will be there as well. So 10,500, that's hard for other teams to do, not hard for Quantified. They only need 1 more win.
And a variety of fish you're seeing out of Quantified as well. We've seen them with white marlin, blue marlin, sailfish. They don't care. They catch them all.
Yeah, we've seen them be very dominant with the white marlin and the sailfish in previous events. Hey, when they took the title in Alabama, they had 9 total billfish catches. They had 12 this week for last event in Florida, and they did so with a double grand slam. They had 2 blue marlin, at least 2 white marlin, and at least 2 sailfish. We had 7 white marlin for this team.
That was awesome. Yeah, 7 whites, 3 sails, 2 blues. Again, total 5,400 points for that event alone. This team is really dialed in. And you told me something yesterday off camera. You said some of the other teams aren't so happy with this team. They're doing it a little different way, right?
Yeah, they go against the grain. And I guess if you had to name a villain of the points race right now, it's Quantified. They're spoiling some of these teams' parties. But, man, we can't ever bank on past history leading into the next event. But one thing that's scary as we looked at their catch total and release total from the Destin event, what's scary, Robbie, the final Gulf event of the season is in their backyard, South Padre Island. We've seen some Gulf teams that are from maybe Orange Beach area not do well out of their home port. But them going to their home spot with a lead, hey, they entered this event 1,000 points or more behind. They left the event 2,000 and change ahead.
Absolutely, but we'll talk about the possibilities throughout the teams. But Quantified is just keep getting it done. 2 different victories out of 4 stops. And again, there have been more Gulf events than Atlantic, and we're now pushing towards the Atlantic. But
sure,
they are the cream of the crop. Moncherie's been up there. We've seen Southern Charm. There's several teams that still have a chance at this time.
That's been a consistent top 3. They've just kind of swapped positions over the last few events. We saw Moncherie get off to a win early in the year, the first Gulf, and then you have 2 third-place finishes for Southern Charm, but then we go to Team Quantified. They started out with a 7th-place event, low catch points in Louisiana, but man, have they done well in the other 3 events, replacing their lowest finish, though, with 2 first-place finishes.
And that was a 14th place, so they dropped the 14th, and now the 7th is, it can't get any lower than this point total as far as the events are concerned. Everything above that, if they finish better than 7th, it's gravy. That's on top.
And you look at these numbers, if you're trying to figure out how this all adds up, you take the catch points total column there, add it to the finish points that gives you your SFC points. You see that plus 600 there on the empty line, the extra catch points. That was from the event that they replaced. They actually had more catch points in a 14th place finish than they did in their 7th place finish. They get to hold on to those catch points. I think there was a blue marlin in there, a white and a sail, and that gets them 600 points or so that they get to carry into their total points for the year.
Well, that's a little bit of a wrap-up of the Gulf Division. We'll talk more about the Atlantic Division. Again, $100,000 on the line as well. Whoever wins the Atlantic Division, we're ready to kick off this 3-week stretch on the Sport Fishing Championship.
SFC coverage of the South Jersey Yacht Sales Offshore Showdown is sponsored by Seaholm Watches, by Smith Optics, and by Fish Razor Tournament Grade Tackle.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in, plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
Remember, everything begins in the morning. Every story told is a fisherman's tale. We build watches tough enough to be a part of that tale. The perfect balance of beauty and brawn. We are Seaholm. Watches that last a lifetime. Seaholm Automatic, the official timepiece of the Sport Fishing Championship.
Yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about!
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
See it, live it, love it. The largest in-water boat show in the world, the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show. More than 3 million square feet, fishing boats to super yachts, engines, accessories, learning experiences, and culinary delights. Save the dates, October 26th through 30th. Details at flibs.com.
It all comes back to the water. This binding agent, this fluid history of connection. Past, present, and future, all tied together through this never-ending, unwavering force. We belong to a community of seekers, anglers, and everyone in between. For us, it's more than fishing, much more. It's who we are, who we were, and who we aspire to be. We are Smith.
SFC coverage of the South Jersey Yacht Sales Offshore Showdown is sponsored by Sword Fishing Products, by Publix, and by YouGo.
The team started fishing about an hour ago. They left Cape May several hours ago for the South Jersey Yacht Sales Offshore Showdown, a kickoff. It was a kickoff at nighttime. You weren't going to see the mass start like we saw in the Gulf, where all of the boats took off at one time. Yeah, they did take off at one time, but they did it in the dark, and they did it out there at that sea buoy.
And the reason that we do that, normally when we do the midday takeoffs on Thursday of the event, it's because they stay out until Saturday when they have to be back for the check-in.
All 3 days they're out there.
For the Atlantic events, they go fishing today from daylight to dark, you know, and then they'll be back by dark roughly. Then tomorrow is kind of a lay day, and then Saturday they get after it again. So they'll have kind of 2 days of fishing with travel in between.
Well, we did see this at the Atlantic, but they were only going, 10 miles offshore, right?
Oh,
I mean, when they were in the
exactly.
Dominican Republic earlier, I mean, they would take off in the morning, they were back in the afternoon, they'd party all night, and then be back out there on the water again in the morning. Here, they're going to get to party for a full day on Friday.
We get a mix of both kind of events. We've got the Gulf where they got to make a longer run, but they've got the Atlantic where they've got to stay closer. And as we take a look at that Garmin Team Spotter, we were talking about it. They kind of have a 100-mile area that they get to fish in, and that is right where that Atlantic shelf drops off.
And mind you, this is 100 miles off of the shoreline. They've got a circle from that sea buoy. We're just trying to show you just about how far 100 miles is from that shoreline in general areas. But you know it, and you've talked about it before. And me talking with some of the tournament directors, it's about that Gulf Stream that's working its way up the coast and how it pushes in that blue water, how close to the shore it gets them and brings in some of those billfish.
Well, if you see, remember the way that we described the Gulf Loop, how it kind of curved in the Gulf Division, and off of those curves on the Gulf Loop were counterclockwise currents, and that's something that a lot of these teams look for. Well, in the Atlantic, it's coming off the Gulf Stream as we take a look at our Atlantic Division with 2 events under our belts. Both winners of the events are at the top.
Absolutely. And Doña Lucia, an amazing comeback. $50. I mean, they were the favorites. They won their event when we were at St. Augustine. But you see the points adding up. The one thing about it, that 3,500 on the right, that ain't going to go away. You can't get any better than that. They're just trying to build on that. Ronnie, if you were Doña Lucy or $50, wouldn't you be fishing one of these next 3 weeks to try and get some points, try and get a top 5?
Well, you have to fish at least 3 SFC events to be in the running for the million. I would expect a team like Doña Lucy to maybe make a run up here and fish either the next New York event, you know, Martha's Vineyard, or Montauk, or maybe both of them, because when they go back for the final event of the season, it's Puerto Rico, much closer to their home stomping grounds. If they can wrap up a top 5 in a New York event and then go back home and have another win, they'll be in good position. Think about this, Robbie. We have 4 golf events, and they've only fished 1 Atlantic event, and they are 11th in the points race overall. They're right outside the top 10 with only 1 compared to 4.
Absolutely, and we're watching footage from the Dominican Republic. The prevalent fish there was the white marlin, but that wasn't the only fish they caught. They caught a couple of sailfish as well, so a mixed bag, just like we saw with Quantified. They caught sails as well as whites, but they caught 9 white marlin in that event.
One thing that was different about this event, they had a 30-minute window from when they hooked to when they had to tag and release these white marlin. That's why white marlin ended up playing a lot more than blue marlin did. A couple teams did factor in with a blue marlin, and that was a fortunate catch for them because those are more points totals. But quantity rather than quality when it comes to point totals for the Dominican Republic event. But the rest of these events, we're going to see some whites, but we're going to see a lot more blues and things mixed in.
What do we say, though, in fishing in general, you know, every ounce counts. Here, every fish counts because, I mean, look at the sailfish were 75 points. They won this event by 25 points. They didn't have as many whites, but they caught those 2 sails, and that kind of made up that difference.
Yeah, and they won by a short or a small margin, like you mentioned, and they did it at the buzzer with just 3 minutes left. You think, oh, we're going to be probably in second place, possibly if it ends up the way it is. One last tag and release with less than 5 minutes on the clock got them the victory, and that will be key because not only did it get them 125 points for that white marlin, Robbie, but it got them 500 points for the first place finish rather than a second place finish.
Absolutely, and we also have bonus points for these teams that have the first blue marlin of the tournament, and you see raise up that flag proud as you are back to the dock. And again, Doña Lucy, your winner at the CNSD Punta Cana event. After the Dominican, we moved our way up the Florida coast to St. Augustine, Florida, the NEFMA, the Northeast Florida Marlin event. And some of our teams fishing outside what we would consider 100 miles. That's the limit. They were fishing much outside that.
Yeah, I think some of these teams were keeping an eye on half a buck. They were your defending champion. I believe this was the 50th anniversary of this event. It's a big deal for a lot of the teams in that Northeast Florida area. Half a buck, who was the defending champ, you want to go back-to-back when it's the 50th.
And it got pushed back a week as well, or several days
because there was bad weather.
Poor weather the week before. You know, when you're all prepped and ready to go, it's game time, and you can't do it. But they did it. They got it done. Again, back-to-back victories for them, and they did it with the blue marlin. While other teams had a single blue and maybe a sailfish for Pez Vela, half a buck caught 3 blue marlin that week.
They caught 3 blue marlin. They also got in that championship division fish race for a little while there. Obviously, they've been overtaken in those. But some teams might say, why wouldn't we see half a buck show up? Well, this is kind of a Florida event for them, for a Florida team. They may not make that New York stretch, but hey, Puerto Rico might not be too far from them. Being able to get involved in the first year of the SFC and this whole points race is something new for a lot of teams, and I know it's piqued a lot of teams' interest, especially when we come up north. We're going to see a lot of teams who fish this week in New Jersey will fish the other 2 events as well.
Yeah, half a buck gets to raise that flag and raise it proudly, taking the victory over Pez Vela, Getty Up, and Power Play. Again, I'm with you. They hit one of these next 3 stops. They go to Puerto Rico. They can still win the championship. They're only a couple of 100 points behind Doña Lucy as far as the Atlantic is concerned.
That's $100,000 right there as well.
What a run we've had so far on the Sport Fishing Championship this year. We're on our 7th stop of the South Jersey Yacht Sales Offshore Showdown. We're going to take a look at this 3-in-a-row stretch we've got ahead. We're heading up the coast of the Atlantic. It is going to be a great 3 weeks here on the Sport Fishing Championship. Thanks for watching.
Look at that lighthouse.
I know, it's pretty.
The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation is honored to be the official charity of the Sports Fishing Championship. Through this partnership and the support of donors like you, future generations will enjoy and benefit from a naturally balanced ocean ecosystem. Our education programs, both in the classroom and online, bring to life the work needed to make sure we have clean oceans for decades to come. Join us today at www.ghof.org.
Sometimes saying no can be really difficult. It's hard to set boundaries, to give yourself space and time. Upwater means never having to choose between having fun or missing out. a sparkling hop water full of flavor and packed with mood-boosting benefits that's non-alcoholic with no calories, no carbs, and no sugar. So go out there and get up to no good.
Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about.
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
When you're serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
It's the simple things, like spending a day at the beach, splashing in the water, playing in the sand, and creating sandcastle masterpieces. Rediscover fun and family on the beautiful white sand beaches of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach.
SFC coverage of the South Jersey Yacht Sales Offshore Showdown is sponsored by Invincible Boats, by Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism, and by Salt Life.
Beautiful scenes from Cape May. You see the ferry, park the car, head out wherever you're going. I don't think they have one that goes directly to New York City, but it's about, 3 hours drive on about 2 a.m. in the morning from New York City to Cape May, New Jersey, is the South Jersey Yacht Sales Offshore Showdown. Stop number 7 of 11, and we are talking about not just the beautiful sights on land, a lot of bird viewing to be seen around there. There's a lot of historical significance for Cape May, New Jersey.
Yeah, Robbie, I like to keep my vehicles on land, not on a boat. I like to keep my boat on water, but not my vehicles on water. So I'm out on the ferry. I don't know if I can do that, but in this area, it's a way of life, you know, getting across the bay. Instead of 2 hours a round trip, you're going to go straight across for 30 minutes.
Absolutely. You know? Let's take a look ahead with Smith Optics. And if you're not liking ferries, you might not want to go to our next stop after Cape May. We'll be at the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic coming up soon as well. And Martha's Vineyard, you got to get on a boat if you're going to get there, Ronnie.
Martha's Vineyard, Montauk. This is a 3-week stretch, Robbie, that we're going to see a lot of changes as we look ahead with Smith Optics. In the Atlantic Division, we've had 2 events so far, one in the Dominican Republic, one in the northeast portion of Florida. You're going to have 3 events here. You're going to see teams show up in this event and the next 2 events, take over that points lead possibly. Maybe Donia makes an appearance. Going to be a lot of movement in the standings over the next 3 weeks of this tournament action.
But as you take a look ahead with Smith Optics, you notice we have back-to-back weeks. Ronnie, we're in the studio this week, and Peter Miller is going to be joining us tomorrow. But Peter and I get to make it to an event. You got to go to the last round of Sandestin. And what's the one thing, out of all the amazing fishing, what's the one thing you said about Sandestin Resort? What was the big bonus?
Man, you got free ice cream at the marina every time. So New York, you better bring it. Free ice cream if you were there at the resort. You know, I mean, that's a big deal. But I know you guys were jealous, Robbie, of my tan, of me being able to be on site, my shirts that I was wearing. So I know that you guys said we got to go to Martha's Vineyard. So it's good that y'all get out of the studio for the next event. And then I'll be in Montauk to see that site for the last one.
I'm looking forward to that. One thing we haven't talked about, we talked about all the billfish, but what about the championship divisions? There's a lot of money online, $50,000 for each one of these categories, whether it's the wahoo, the mahi-mahi, or the yellowfin tuna Invincible Boats category. If you had the biggest fish at the end of the season, $100,000, an extra $50K for doing what you're supposed to be doing the whole time.
And one thing that's key is you have to fish 3 events to be in the Billfish $1 million pot. But for this $50,000 pot, you can only fish 1 SFC event. To do so, that Wahoo held at the beginning of our season, Dominican Republic.
Say it.
I can't say it. Maricela, I'm going to say that. Miss Maricela from the Coriolis. It was a 73.8 pounder. Wahoo, it still wasn't broken. We thought it would get broken in Florida. It did not.
Nope. Man, the mahi-mahi, there are big mahi-mahi at this event, over 50 pounders. You thought that there were a couple close ones in Florida, but they were not close enough.
There were 3 within that 36 to 39 pound range, but Angelo Depaloa.
Yeah, we're getting it. We're
getting
getting there.
40 pounder, and he's still holding that lead. And I got to see this one in person in Biloxi.
Yeah, this is an amazing catch. Again, second wins, Drew Phillips in Biloxi caught a 206 pounder. That's Invincible Boats, yellowfin tuna. He's our leader. Will we have one catch it? Because, well, like I said earlier, there's big mahi. There's also big yellowfin. There's big tuna in general where we're at right now.
206 pounds and 9 ounces. Hey, and that busted the previous mark set by at least 60 pounds. So Drew Phillips holding on to that one. He said, hey, that's not too bad to win the money that week in Biloxi, but to possibly win $50,000 more just for 45 minutes of work, I'll take that. That's a good hourly rate, Robbie.
Close, but no cigar, Drew. It was close there. Hey, we've talked about the Atlantic. We've talked about the Gulf. Let's take a look at the Gulf Division now. As we work our way through the points, we are done with it for a while. We'll come back, in August at South Padre Island for that final stop. We'll crown a champion. And the thing is, Ronnie, is the event points just keep adding up, as far as your best finishes. I think Moncherie, Southern Charm, Rising Sun, Skinny, even Bandito have a legitimate shot of winning the Gulf.
I'm even going to add in 7th place Breathe Easy because they still only have 2 finish points to the thing. They get a 3,500 in South Padre. Boom, they're right there over 10,000, and they're in contention to maybe chase down Quantified. But at this point, Robbie, this team is on fire. 4,000 catch points almost, and they have 9,000 finish points out of a 10,500 maximum. They showed, hey, in Alabama, we can get it done doing something different. We've been wondering this whole season, what is Quantified doing? They're going against the grain. I got a little bit more intel of what they're doing at the last event to maybe see. Well, I'm going to wait until South Padre because Justin Drummond's hometown, that home region, he was excited. That's all he was talking. They just had won the event in Destin, and on the dock walking back to the boat after his video verification of his catches, he said, hey, I get to go home for my next one.
Yeah.
You know they have that one circled.
And everybody else is sweating it. Again, this is looking back at the Orange Beach, Alabama event, the Gulf Coast Masters. They took the win over Bandito and Southern Charm in that one. We saw multiple blue marlin from Bandito and Southern Charm. Bandito actually caught the first, but it was the one white and the 7 sailfish that really did it for them, and they picked up right where they left off. I mean, 2 wins this year.
One thing that's key for them, I feel, in my personal opinion, you watch these teams, and these events in the Gulf had a lot of boats. We started out with 25, it went to 45, and then 75, and then 80 and 84 roughly. So we had over 45 teams in multiple events. That means a lot of these blue marlin areas are getting pressured with a lot more boats than our first few events of the season. So we saw a lot of the teams who maybe had a couple 3rd place finishes early in the year had to share water with some teams. You become maybe less efficient. You have a lot more fish chasing and they don't convert. Maybe you hook up and you lose them. For Quantified, they got to get away from some teams doing the white marlin and the sailfish strategy. And then obviously mixing in 700 points for 2 blue marlin. That is huge. Actually 800 points because they got the first blue marlin of the event. The first winner of the season to catch the first fish.
But the double grand slam at that last event in Miramar, Florida, an excellent job. And look at their 2 victories. One they catch 12 billfish, the other one they catch 9. That's pretty awesome stuff. I don't care where you are in the country, in the world, you're doing that on competition week. I mean, that's performing under pressure.
We saw a big catch and release total for the Dominican Republic event, but Robbie, that was a different type of event. 30 minutes, light tackle, white marlin specifically for a lot of these teams, a couple sailfish as well. For them to be able to mix in blue marlin and to do white marlin and get over 9 billfish releases in 2 of their wins, that is huge for a team. That is crazy numbers that they can stack those catch points.
We're watching these fish jumping around as we're talking about the Gulf. And remember, the Gulf and the Atlantic mixed together back in Puerto Rico. And as you said, when we were in the DR, 108 billfish caught, that is a massive amount. And when we do go to PR, whether you're at Atlantic or Gulf, we're going to be in more blues. We're going to be in blue marlin alley.
Same type of deal where they're not far off land, or not far off land, but they're going to be a lot more blues. We're going to see some of those teams fishing live, actually. And it all started earlier this year, a team that really rose up the leaderboard quickly, and we got to keep our eye on Team Southern Charm. A third place, they would end up backing up with another third right after this.
Yeah, back-to-back, but Southern Charm started off the season on fire. 4 Blue Marlin. It took 6 Blue Marlin to win that event, and that was Mont Cherie. But then the Gulf Coast Masters after that back-to-back thirds, you said. 2 Blue Marlin in this one, but the catch was a little bit tougher.
Yeah, the one event out of the Gulf, a lot of these teams have gone to the same proving grounds for every event. You know, they go outside of the Mississippi, Alabama, and the Venice, Louisiana region in those canyons. But we saw that one event in Alabama, it just seemed like something was different because then you roll into Biloxi and then you roll into Destin, and the conditions are pretty similar for a lot of these teams. Maybe the blue water shifts a little bit before these teams being able to put back-to-back finishes together. The key is, it doesn't matter when you do it, but getting third place finishes, those are good catch points for these teams, finish points for these teams, and you obviously have to catch them pretty well in those tournaments.
Look at the big boy out there in the water just wagging his head out there.
Maybe catch of the year.
And the young lady reeling it in. I mean, we've seen this. It hasn't been an all-male show. There's been several ladies stepping up and getting in that fighting chair and fighting them in.
Owner Ron Davis and Captain Landon Bell have the utmost confidence in everyone else in their team, and they talk about that. We are a unit that, hey, we put it together early in the season. 2 third place finishes. The last 2 events for Southern Charm, though, not their best performances. A 17th and an 11th. Hey, they still placed and got placement points, but it's not up to their standards. And they said it's been an inefficiency deal. They're going 1 for 3, 1 for 4, 2 for 4. That's not their style. They're normally perfect when it comes to seeing blue marlin and tagging and releasing those blue marlin. We will see if they get back on that for the South Padre.
We take 3 event points throughout the season. That's what you get. That's the max you can get. A perfect score would be 3 3,500 weekends. But third place is awesome. They're just looking for that one top 3 spot. If they get another top 3, they're right there.
They're going to call out a double-digit finish.
11.
That's a huge upgrade for them. And that's the one thing. You add the catch points all year, but you take your top 3 finishes. So they're going to call out where some teams only have 2 placement point finishes. They have 3. They'll have to call out their small one. Robbie, we appreciate all these teams having cameras in the boat. And even Team Quantified, who hasn't had a camera in the boat, maybe we'll get to see that in South Padre, shooting footage to verify their catches and be able to give them to us as well.
And again, we asked them if we can be on board, and thank you to Southern Charm and our other teams for doing that. And you see, these are the best finishes, that third, and 11th. They dropped a 17th place finish, so that 11th helps. You get a top 3, even a victory, they'll be equally as good as Quantified. 2 wins and a 7th, 2 thirds and a first can beat that.
Yeah, your placement points don't always dictate how many fish you tagged and released. You see the catch points for their 17th place event that carry over in that far right column, the same amount as their 11th place. And what's crazy about the Emerald Coast Blue Marlin Championship, the last one we did in Destin, they got 11th with 10 other teams.
Yeah.
If they could have had a sailfish or a white marlin to break that tie, they would have had exclusive points and really had an advantage over about 10 teams.
What a beautiful event we're going to be seeing this week. Again, it kicks off this morning, and they've been fishing for about 2 hours. They'll fish till about 3 o'clock this afternoon, 3:30 to be exact, and then they'll work their way back on shore. We'll talk to all of our teams and find out who the leader will be, because they're going to have a rest day in between as our Garmin team spotter shows these guys out. And just like we've seen, even though it's not the Gulf, they hang out pretty close to each other, don't they?
Yeah, we talked about Quantified, Southern Charm, Mont Cherie, names that just roll off the tongue from the Gulf Division. We're going to get to know Salty Tiger and Genie G and some of these teams as well this week. That's what's good about the lay day on Friday, Robbie. You and Peter Miller are going to be able to talk to these teams. We're going to have an evening show at 6 p.m. Eastern Time showing up. We're going to see possible catch and releases from these teams.
We're going to show you as much as we can. Again, they go out, they come back in the same day. They have a rest day. I'm hearing Gypsy might be one to look for out of Rock Island, Rhode Island. Taylor Stanford, if he can get on those fish, you know they're going to bring them in. Again, it's the best of the best, the Sport Fishing Championship. On behalf of Ronnie Moore, I'm Robbie Floyd. We see you this afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern on SportFishingChampionship.com. See you then.
A day out on the water could go great, or it could have a few minor setbacks. Things could get rough,
Or you could lose that $900 smartphone. Whatever the problem, Yugo provides unmatched premium protection for any water sports adventure. Yugo. To get yours, visit YugoWear.com or simply scan the QR code on the screen. And remember, just add water.
Some call it joie de vivre, the joy of life. In Louisiana, it's our way of life. From music that shakes up your senses to food that wakes up your palate. That joy vibrates in every note we play and spices up every meal we serve. So come live life to the fullest. Come one, come y'all, come feed your soul in Louisiana. I'm Sean Ardway, inviting you to plan your trip at louisianatravel.com.
So, you want this, but you can't have it without this, or this, or this. Until now, introducing a new way to travel, intranationally. Get all that international charm without ever leaving the country. Right here in St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Get all that culture, all the cuisine from that culture. You're welcome. All the gram-worthy sites from that hashtag culture. Right here at home. St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Travel intranationally.
Slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
Yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about!
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
When it comes to performance, comfort, and functionality, we've got you covered. Performance apparel designed by anglers to make your time on the water better than ever. Salt Life, the official apparel sponsor of the Sport Fishing Championship.